The first thing I saw wasn't my husband. It was the locket. That silver oval on a thin chain, resting against the chest of a woman who had no right to wear it. My grandmother's locket. The one I kept locked in a box at home. The one he promised me would never leave my hands. She touched it like it belonged to her, like it wasn't soaked in the memory of every woman who came before me. And then I realized why it looked so wrong. She was standing next to him, my husband, his hand on the small of her back like it had been there 1,000 times. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream, but the microphone in his hand cut me off. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, beaming like he owned the room, "I want you all to meet someone very special." Whispers broke out. Heads turned. Some people laughed nervously, unsure of what they were witnessing. This wasn't part of the program. This was supposed to be our 20th wedding anniversary gala, a celebration of us. And here he was, parading his mistress in front of every guest. He pulled her closer. "This is Tessa," he said. "She's been my rock. My rock." My body went hot, then cold. Every eye in the room turned to me, waiting for my reaction. My fingers curled into fists at my side, nails biting my palms. My husband's voice blurred into noise because my eyes were locked on the locket she wore. I crossed the floor before I could talk myself out of it. My heels echoed on the marble, cutting through the silence. "Take it off," I said. The mistress blinked, confused. "Excuse me?" "The locket. Take it off." My voice didn't shake. My husband's smile faltered. "Mallory, let's not make a scene." "You already did," I snapped, reaching forward. I unlatched the chain myself, ignoring her gasp, ignoring the way he tried to grab my wrist. I held it up for everyone to see, then flicked it open with my thumb. Inside was the inscription my grandmother had made for me when she passed it down. "Forever Mallory. Never another." The room froze. Not because of the words, but because they all understood what it meant. He hadn't just betrayed me. He'd stolen something sacred, handed it to the woman he was sleeping with, and let her flaunt it at our anniversary celebration. I looked him dead in the eye. "You thought I wouldn't notice?" "Mallory!" The sound of my hand connecting with his cheek cracked louder than the applause earlier. His head snapped to the side. Gasps rippled across the room. I didn't wait for him to recover. I ripped off my wedding ring, slammed it on the table nearest me, and turned toward the doors. "Consider this my anniversary gift to myself," I said. People parted like the sea as I walked out, my fists clenched, my jaw locked. I didn't cry. I didn't stumble. I just kept walking, because I knew if I stayed 1 second longer, I'd give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. Outside, the night air hit me sharp and clean. I lifted my chin, tasting the metallic edge of my own fury. That locket, that public humiliation, that smug grin on his face, it burned into me. And right there, in the parking lot under the fluorescent lights, I made myself a promise. He was going to regret ever thinking I'd stay silent. I wasn't walking away broken. I was walking away planning. When I was 22, I thought love meant choosing someone and never letting go. I met him at a college fundraiser in Knoxville. He had that easy charm that made people lean in, that laugh that filled a room. I was the girl with steady eyes and a clear plan. Finish my degree, use the inheritance my grandmother left me to start something of my own. But he talked about dreams bigger than both of us, and I let myself believe building his future was the same as building ours. I poured my inheritance into his first business. I worked days at the bank, nights helping him file paperwork, weekends watching our daughter so he could network. I told myself it was temporary, that once he made it, I'd finally chase my own goals. That day never came. His success became our story, and I faded into the background of it. I wasn't blind. The late nights, at the office, the sudden trips that didn't line up with his calendar, the scent of perfume that wasn't mine, the way his phone never left his hand. Friends hinted. One even tried to tell me outright, but I shut it down. Loyalty was stitched into me so deep, I mistook it for pride. I thought turning away from suspicion was strength, not denial. Our daughter, Maren, grew up watching me cover for him. She's 17 now, sharper than I ever was at her age. She notices things. She asked me once, "Why does Dad smile more when he's texting than when he's talking to us?" I brushed it off, told her not to read into it. I should have listened to her. Kids see what adults pretend not to. The night of the gala wasn't the first time I felt the crack. Months before, I found a credit card statement tucked in his briefcase. Hotel charges that didn't make sense. Dinners for two in cities he never mentioned visiting. I held that paper in my hands and convinced myself it was business, that I was paranoid. Then, 1 week before the gala, Maren walked into the kitchen holding his phone. He'd left it on the counter for the first time in years. She didn't say anything at first. She just slid it across the table to me, screen unlocked, a message glowing. "Can't wait to wear the locket tonight. You'll love it on me." My stomach dropped. The locket. My grandmother's locket. I hadn't seen it in months, thought maybe I'd misplaced it in storage. But there it was, dangling in words on a mistress's phone. Maren's eyes filled with tears. "Mom, please don't let him make a fool out of you." That sentence broke me in a way the affair itself hadn't. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about my daughter seeing her father's betrayal, seeing her mother lied to, watching the people she trusted most unravel. I kissed her forehead, told her I'd handle it. But inside, I knew the truth. The gala wasn't going to be a celebration. It was going to be a stage. And I wasn't going to stand there quietly while he stole my history, my dignity, and passed it to another woman. By the time I saw that locket around her neck, I wasn't shocked. I was ready. The morning after the gala, I didn't wake up broken. I woke up furious. The slap, the locket, the whispers. It all replayed in my head like a bad reel. But instead of drowning in shame, I felt something sharper. A line had been crossed, and I wasn't going to wait for him to apologize or spin the story. I was done being the background to his show. I poured myself coffee, opened my laptop, and started making moves. The first was money. I logged into our joint accounts, fingers trembling, and shifted the bulk of the liquid cash into an account under my name only. He'd used my inheritance to start his empire, and I wasn't about to watch him funnel it into designer bags for his mistress. When I hit transfer, I felt a rush. Not guilt, not hesitation, just control. Then came the lawyer. I'd avoided that conversation for years, telling myself divorce wasn't an option, that it would ruin Maren, that it would destroy everything we'd built. But humiliation has a way of stripping away excuses. I Googled top divorce attorneys Knoxville and dialed the first number that came up. The receptionist asked if it was urgent. He humiliated me at our anniversary gala in front of 200 people while his mistress wore my grandmother's locket, I said. "Yes, it's urgent." By noon, I had a consultation scheduled for the next day. After that, I walked through the house like a thief in my own life, gathering what mattered. Documents, jewelry, the heirlooms he hadn't touched yet. I stuffed them into a suitcase and slid it under the bed in the guest room. If he thought I'd sit here while he paraded her around town, he was in for a shock. I also called a realtor I trusted, a quiet friend of my brother's, and asked what it would take to list the house if I wanted out fast. She didn't ask questions, just said she'd run numbers and get back to me. That small step felt like breathing again. The phone buzzed around 2 p.m. His name lit up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then it buzzed again. And again. 10 missed calls before he finally sent a text. "We need to talk. Don't do anything rash." I laughed out loud. Rash? 20 years of loyalty, and he thought I was the impulsive one. By evening, Maren came home from school. She dropped her bag at the door and looked at me carefully, like she wasn't sure if I'd shattered. I hugged her, kissed her hair, and whispered, "I've got this." The relief in her shoulders told me she believed me. For the first time in a long time, I believed me too. That night, he finally showed up. Keys in the door, shoes clicking down the hallway. I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, spreadsheets and bank statements glowing on the screen. He walked in like nothing had happened. "Mallory," he started, his voice soft, rehearsed. "About last night." "Don't!" I cut him off without looking up. "Your card didn't work at lunch, did it?" His jaw tightened. "You froze the accounts?" "No," I said, meeting his eyes for the first time. "I moved my money. The inheritance I gave you, the years I covered for you, the things you took for granted. Those are mine again." He dropped into the chair across from me, stunned. "You can't just—" "I already did." For once, he didn't have a comeback. The silence stretched, heavy with the fact that the balance of power had shifted. I closed the laptop, stood up, and walked past him. "This is just the beginning," I said, grabbing my suitcase from the guest room. His eyes widened when he saw it. "You're leaving?" he asked. "No," I said, pausing in the doorway. "You are. You just don't know it yet." The next 48 hours felt like watching dominoes topple, one after another. I hadn't done much yet, just a few phone calls, one bank transfer, but the effects reached him faster than I imagined. The first hit was financial. His credit card declined at a steakhouse downtown. I only knew because he stormed into the house that night red-faced, throwing his jacket onto the chair. "You embarrassed me," he hissed, as if I'd followed him there and yanked the card myself. "Do you have any idea how it looked?" "Yes," I said, folding laundry like his tantrum meant nothing. "It looked like you can't pay for your girlfriend's filet mignon." He froze. For once, he didn't have a speech ready. He just grabbed a drink and disappeared into his office, slamming the door like a child. By the next morning, whispers were spreading. My phone buzzed with texts from friends I hadn't heard from in months. "Are the rumors true? Was that really your grandmother's locket? People are saying she showed up at your anniversary." The story had legs. Knoxville isn't a small town, but its circles are small enough, and humiliation travels faster than fire. The mistress, Tessa, felt the heat too. I knew because I still had access to his email, and I watched the messages pour in. I didn't sign up for this kind of drama. Everyone's looking at me weird at the salon. "Why didn't you warn me your wife was crazy enough to call you out like that?" Crazy. That word sat bitter on my tongue, but I didn't reply. Let him manage her. I had bigger moves to plan. Marin, though, was my anchor. She came home from school one afternoon, tossed her backpack down, and said, "Dad tried to talk to me in the parking lot." I ignored him. "Good," I said. He looked desperate. She wrinkled her nose. Like he wanted me to fix it. That image, my daughter forced into the role of peacemaker between a man and his mistakes, hardened something inside me. I promised myself she wouldn't carry his burden. Not now. Not ever. Family reactions trickled in next. My brother called first, voice tight with restrained fury. "You should have told me sooner, Mal. I'd have dragged him out of that gala myself." "You'll get your chance," I said. Then his parents reached out. His father left a curt voicemail. "Handle this privately. Don't ruin the family name." His mother sent a text that read like a hostage note. "He's just going through a phase. Don't make any decisions you'll regret." I didn't reply to either. They'd spent 2 decades shielding him from consequences. They weren't going to stop me now. By Friday, the pressure cracked him. He showed up at the house while I was sorting through files at the dining table. He didn't knock, just barged in like he still owned the place. "Mallory, we need to stop this," he said, pacing. His tie was loosened, his hair unkempt, a man fraying at the edges. "Stop what?" I asked, not looking up. This scorched earth thing you're doing. Freezing accounts, talking to lawyers." "You embarrassed me in front of everyone we know," I cut in. "You handed another woman my grandmother's locket. You don't get to call me dramatic now." He gripped the back of a chair, knuckles white. "You'll ruin me." "No," I said calmly. "You ruined yourself. I'm just making sure the ashes blow in the right direction." For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not anger, not arrogance. Fear. That night, the mistress unfollowed him on social media. By morning, she'd blocked him altogether. I didn't need to guess why. Word had spread through her circle, too. Women love a scandal, but they hate being laughed at. And by now, everyone was laughing. The calls kept coming, but I let them go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to listen. I wanted him to sit in that silence, to feel the weight of doors closing around him one by one. On Sunday, I drove Marin to a friend's house and passed by his office downtown. The parking lot was half empty, the blinds drawn. I heard later that one of his business partners had pulled funding. Nobody wants to gamble on a man whose name is a punchline. And me? I felt steady. My lawyer had files spread out across her desk. My realtor had comps ready for the house. My bank account was secure. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting to his chaos. I was directing it. The week ended with one last attempt. He showed up again, late at night, knocking instead of barging in. His voice through the door was shaky, almost pleading. "Mallory, just talk to me. Please." I stood there, hand on the knob, heartbeat steady. For a moment, I considered opening it. But then I remembered Marin's words. "Don't let him make a fool out of you." So I walked away, left him outside with the dark, and let silence answer for me. This was only the beginning. I wasn't planning to see him again so soon. But Knoxville has a way of shrinking when you least want it to. Saturday night, I walked into Copper Cellar with my brother for dinner. The place was packed, tables shoulder to shoulder, servers weaving through the crowd with trays of wine. And there he was, sitting 3 tables away with Tessa. I almost laughed. After everything, after the gala, after the blocked cards, after the whispers tearing through town, he still thought dinner with his mistress in a popular spot was a good idea. It wasn't arrogance anymore. It was desperation dressed up as bravado. He saw me before I saw him. His smile faltered, but he didn't move. Tessa leaned in, whispering something, and he forced a grin, pretending nothing was wrong. My brother leaned close. "Want to leave?" "No," I said. "I want dessert." We ordered drinks, but I couldn't take my eyes off them. Every forkful she lifted to her mouth made my skin crawl. Every fake laugh she gave him twisted the knife. But it wasn't until the server brought their check that I decided I'd had enough. I stood, heels clicking across the wood floor, and stopped at their table. "Enjoying dinner?" I asked, voice loud enough to carry. Conversations nearby quieted. Tessa stiffened, eyes darting around the room. He straightened in his chair. "Mallory, not here." "Why not here?" I tilted my head. "You had no problem parading her at our anniversary. You had no problem letting her wear my grandmother's locket in front of 200 people. Why should I suddenly care about your comfort?" People at surrounding tables leaned in. Forks paused mid-air. Tessa muttered, "This is ridiculous," and reached for her bag. But I wasn't finished. I pulled a folded sheet of paper from my purse and dropped it on the table between their plates. "Recognize that?" He glanced down, color draining from his face. It was a printout of one of his hotel receipts. Date, time, room service for 2. A neat little record of betrayal. The gasp from the table beside us was loud. Someone's phone camera clicked. "You really should be more careful with your statements," I said, my voice steady. "But then again, careful has never been your strong suit, has it?" He shoved the paper aside, hissing, "You're making a scene." "Good," I snapped. "Scenes are the only language you understand." By now, the whole section of the restaurant had gone silent. I felt every pair of eyes on me, and for the first time I didn't shrink from it. I welcomed it. Tessa pushed back her chair. "I'm not doing this." She grabbed her coat, muttered something under her breath, and stormed out. The door swung shut behind her, leaving him alone under the weight of every stare. I leaned in just enough so he couldn't mistake the steel in my voice. "You built your life on my back, with my money, with my loyalty, and you threw it all away for this? A woman who can't even sit through one confrontation without running?" His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Just the sound of a man stripped bare. I straightened, slipped the receipt back into my purse, and looked around at the crowd. "For anyone still confused," I said loud and clear, "this is what betrayal looks like. A murmur rippled through the restaurant. Someone clapped once, then stopped, embarrassed. But the damage was done. My words weren't just for him. They were for every ear that carried stories back to his business partners, his family, his so-called friends. I turned on my heel and walked back to my table, shoulders square. My brother slid a glass of wine toward me. "Well?" he said, smirking. "That'll make the rounds." It did. By the time I got home, my phone was buzzing again. Screenshots of me standing at his table had already surfaced on Facebook. Someone had caught my line on video. "This is what betrayal looks like." And it was spreading fast. By morning, he called, then texted, "You humiliated me. Do you realize what you've done?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. His humiliation was the reply. For the first time in years, I felt tall, and this was only his second fall. By Monday morning, his humiliation had taken on a life of its own. The clip from the restaurant, me standing over him, my voice ringing out, "This is what betrayal looks like," had racked up thousands of views. Knoxville isn't Hollywood, but word spreads like wildfire when someone well-connected falls from grace. It was on Facebook groups, local gossip accounts, even clipped into a TikTok with the caption, "Locket Gate." At first, I thought he'd stay quiet, let the noise die down. But he never could stand being the punchline. By Tuesday, he made his move. He booked himself on a local radio show, the kind that feeds on morning commuters and scandal junkies. I heard his voice driving Marin to school, smooth and practiced like the man I once believed in. "I've been dealing with a very difficult situation at home," he told the host, sighing deeply. "My wife, well, she's struggling emotionally. 20 years is a long time, and sometimes people just unravel. I love her, but she's not herself." Marin's hands gripped the dashboard. He did not just say that. I clenched the wheel. He did. He spun himself as the patient husband, the victim of a wife losing control. He even mentioned mental health, painting me as unstable. It was calculated, cruel, and exactly the kind of narrative men like him think will save them. But the internet doesn't stay loyal for long, especially when receipts start to surface. By that afternoon, screenshots of his texts with Tessa hit Twitter. Screenshots I hadn't leaked, which meant someone else had access. Maybe her, maybe a friend she trusted more than him. The messages were explicit, crass, filled with promises of, "When Mallory's out of the way," and "You'll have everything soon." The kicker? One message about the locket. "She never even noticed it's gone. You wear it better than she ever did." That one spread like gasoline meeting flame. Hashtags sprouted. "Ash Locket Gate," "I wear it better," "Touch Team Mallory." People weren't laughing at me anymore. They were laughing at him. Memes of him holding out a locket with captions like, "Forever Mallory until brunch with Tessa," cluttered my feed. His office phones lit up with reporters. Business partners ducked his calls. By Wednesday, his PR damage control team, because of course he had one, pushed him to post a long Facebook statement. "I want to clarify the rumors. My marriage has been under strain for years, and while mistakes were made, the public shaming I've endured is unfair. Please respect my privacy during this difficult time." The comments section did not respect his privacy. "You wore her grandma's locket on your side chick. You humiliated her at your anniversary, and now you want privacy? Man, sit down." Every hour that passed, another piece of him unraveled. And still, he tried to fight back. Thursday, a glossy interview went live on a local business magazine's website. The photo shoot showed him in a suit, chin lifted like a man rebuilding his empire. The headline read, "A Family Man Under Fire." His side of the story. I clicked through the article, shaking my head at every line. He painted me as vengeful, controlling, bitter about being left behind. He framed Tessa as just a friend. The lies were so transparent, I didn't even feel angry anymore. I felt pity, because by the time that article hit, the bigger bomb had already dropped. One of his former employees leaked financial documents to a blogger, screenshots of emails, shady transfers. proof he'd been funneling business funds into personal accounts. It wasn't just about cheating anymore, it was about fraud. The blogger captioned it, "Cheating is messy, but stealing is criminal. Locket Gate just got deeper." Within hours, it was everywhere. The local news picked it up. His face went from gossip fodder to front-page disgrace. Marin showed me a TikTok that night, eyes wide with glee. It was a mashup of his radio interview clip spliced with the leaked emails and the line from me in the restaurant. Overlaid text read, "Gaslight, gatekeep, Locket girl boss." It had 1 million views. I laughed until my stomach hurt. But underneath the laughter, I knew the real war wasn't online. It was in the courts, in the banks, in the contracts he'd signed thinking I'd never push back. The internet had turned him into a joke, but I was about to turn him into a cautionary tale. On Friday, he called again. This time, he didn't sound angry. He sounded broken. "You don't know what you've done, Mallory," he rasped. "They're digging into everything. The company, the accounts. I'm ruined." I let the silence hang, then said, "You did that. I just stopped cleaning up after you." He cursed, begged, then hung up. And just like that, his PR war collapsed under the weight of his own lies. By the weekend, he wasn't a respected businessman anymore. He was a meme, a scandal, a headline. And me? I wasn't the humiliated wife. I was the woman who stood up, tore off the mask, and showed everyone what betrayal looks like. And I wasn't finished. By the time the lawyer slid the stack of papers across her oak desk, I felt no hesitation. 20 years of excuses, swallowed anger, and blind loyalty ended in black ink on white paper. Divorce, custody, asset division. Everything I'd ignored for years now sat in neat, brutal paragraphs. She tapped the first section. "Because you provided the seed money for his company, we can trace it back as marital property with your contribution documented. That means half, at minimum, will be yours." Half. The word should have made me dizzy, but all I felt was clarity. I hadn't wasted my inheritance. I'd invested it. And now I was cashing out. We filed within the week. He was served at his office, the same office where his partners had already begun distancing themselves. One of them called me privately. "We can't have his name tied to us anymore, Mallory. He's toxic." I didn't need to respond. His reputation was doing the work for me. The court granted me temporary control of our joint accounts. He tried to contest it, whining to the judge that I was draining him dry. My lawyer laid out the records: transfers to Tessa, unexplained cash withdrawals, luxury purchases that had nothing to do with family expenses. The judge barely glanced at him before ruling in my favor. That was the first time I saw him look small in a courtroom. The man who once commanded rooms with his charm sat hunched in his chair, red-faced, muttering under his breath while the gavel came down. At home, Marin stuck post-it notes on the fridge. "We've got this, Mom." She was 17, but the kind of 17 that grows up fast when lies unravel around you. Her presence reminded me what was at stake. Not just money, but stability, trust, a home free from manipulation. Then came custody. He fought for weekends, tried to paint himself as the devoted father. My lawyer shredded him with evidence. Months of absence, texts where he brushed Marin off for work dinners, receipts showing he'd spent more on hotel rooms than on his daughter's needs. When Marin gave her statement, her voice didn't shake. "He's my dad," she said. "But he hasn't been a father. I want to live with my mom." That was the moment the judge's face softened toward me. Custody tilted decisively in my direction. The financial unraveling snowballed. His father called me, his voice brittle. "Mallory, you need to stop this. You're ruining him." "I'm not ruining him," I said evenly. "He did that himself. I'm just not cleaning it up anymore." 2 days later, I heard his father cut him off entirely. The family trust was closed to him. His brother pulled out of a joint investment, citing conflict of interest. He was alone in a way he'd never been before. Tessa vanished completely. Rumors swirled that she'd fled to Nashville, that she was telling people he'd lied about money, about promises, about leaving me. In the end, she abandoned him the same way he abandoned me, without a backward glance. The house came next. I had it appraised, listed, and sold faster than he could protest. Half the proceeds went to me under court order. He begged to keep it, claiming it was his home. I reminded him that homes are built on loyalty, not lies. He moved into a rental on the edge of town, a far cry from the gated community he once bragged about. His company crumbled under the weight of the financial leaks. Clients pulled out, shareholders demanded answers, and eventually, the board forced him to resign. He didn't go quietly. He ranted, threatened lawsuits. But in the end, they locked him out of his own office with a security guard escorting him to the curb. The local paper ran the headline, "From Business Mogul to Scandal, Knoxville's Fall from Grace." His photo, once polished and confident, now looked like a mugshot of a man drowning. Through it all, I didn't gloat, not out loud. But every signed document, every ruling, every account shifted into my name was a quiet victory. A correction, proof that the years I gave him weren't wasted. They were ammunition. Marin and I moved into a smaller, cleaner house across town. It wasn't flashy, but it was ours. We filled it with laughter, with late-night pizza, with freedom. She studied at the kitchen table without tension hanging in the air. I slept without waiting for a door to slam. Meanwhile, he unraveled. Word spread he'd been denied loans, blacklisted by investors, left with mounting legal fees he couldn't cover. His suits hung looser. His voice lost its practiced edge. He looked like a man stripped of the armor he once thought was permanent. One night I passed by his rental. Lights off, yard unkempt, mailbox stuffed with unopened envelopes. I didn't stop. I didn't need to. Seeing him there, diminished, forgotten, was enough. The man who had once believed he was untouchable was now broke, isolated, and unwanted. And the best part? I didn't have to destroy him. I just stopped protecting him. By the time the divorce was finalized, I walked out of the courthouse with the papers in my hand and sunlight on my face. He didn't look at me as he shuffled past, shoulders hunched, lawyer trailing behind. He was a shadow of the man I once thought I loved, and I was no longer his. I didn't expect to see him again. After the court hearings, after the headlines, after watching his empire collapse piece by piece, I thought he'd disappear into the wreckage. But one rainy Thursday evening, he showed up. I heard the knock first. Soft, uneven, almost apologetic. When I opened the door, he was standing there drenched, hair plastered to his forehead, suit jacket hanging off his shoulders like it didn't fit anymore. His eyes were hollow, and for the first time in 2 decades, he looked smaller than me. "Mallory," he whispered. "Please." Every instinct told me to slam the door, but a part of me wanted to see him like this, stripped of the arrogance, the charm, the mask. So I let him in. He stepped inside cautiously, as if the floor might reject him. His shoes left wet tracks on the hardwood. He glanced around the living room, at the framed photos of Marin and me, at the house that wasn't his anymore. "You look different," he said. "I am different," I replied, folding my arms. He nodded, swallowing hard. "I don't even know where to start. I've lost everything, Mallory. The company, the house, my family, even Tessa. Don't say her name in my home." He flinched. "Sorry, I thought she'd be there, and she wasn't. No one is. I have no one left." I studied him, the man who once strutted through rooms like he owned the air people breathed. Now he was hunched, begging, stripped bare. And all I felt was clarity. "You had me," I said. "For 20 years you had me. My money, my loyalty, my forgiveness. And you burned it all." His eyes glistened. "I didn't know what I had until it was gone." I almost laughed. That's the oldest line in the book. He moved closer, hands shaking. Can we try again? Just start over? I'll be better. I'll prove it to you." I held up a hand, stopping him cold. "Start over? Do you think I'm so desperate I'd rebuild with the same man who torched it all the first time? You humiliated me in front of our daughter. You betrayed me in front of an entire city. And now you want me to forget? I want you to forgive me, he whispered. Forgiveness is not the same as return, I said, voice sharp. You want absolution because you're lonely. Because the mistress is gone, your family cut you off, and you can't stand the silence. That's not love. That's desperation. He sank into the armchair, burying his face in his hands. His shoulders shook, whether from sobs or exhaustion. I couldn't tell. I wake up every morning thinking about you, he murmured. About what I did. About how I destroyed the only person who ever really cared for me. I let him sit in that misery. I owed him no comfort. Not anymore. You're right about one thing, I said finally. You destroyed the only person who ever cared for you. But it wasn't me. It was you. You never cared for yourself enough to be honest, to be faithful, to build something real. You were so busy chasing admiration that you threw away respect. He looked up, eyes red, lips trembling. So that's it? You're just done? I leaned forward, my voice calm, deliberate, final. You're the architect of your own destruction. I don't need to punish you. You're already living the sentence. His mouth opened, then closed. The words died in his throat. I stood, walked to the door, and held it open. The rain outside pounded harder, as if urging him out. You need to leave, I said. He hesitated, staring at me like he wanted to memorize the shape of me one last time. Then he rose, shoulders slumped, and shuffled toward the door. As he stepped onto the porch, I added one last truth. Don't mistake this for victory or for hatred. It's freedom. Mine, not yours. The door shut behind him with a quiet click. I stood in the silence, breathing deeply, steady. For the first time in 2 decades, I felt no weight on my chest. No fear, no second guessing. Just peace. That was the last time I ever saw him. A year later, I hardly recognized the woman I used to be. The bruises weren't on my skin. They were on my spirit, buried under years of compromise and silence. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see someone sharper, someone who doesn't wait for permission to live. Maren and I settled into a rhythm in our new house. It's smaller, yes, but it's filled with things that are ours alone. Saturday mornings smell like pancakes and coffee, not tension. Evenings are quieter, softer, filled with laughter echoing off walls that don't hold secrets. She applied to colleges, her essays full of honesty about resilience and independence. She doesn't say it directly, but I know watching me stand up to her father changed her. She carries herself taller now. I built something for myself too. The realtor who helped me sell the house offered me a chance to work with her part-time. It started as paperwork, phone calls, busy work. But I remembered I had a sharp mind for numbers, for people, for deals. Within months, I wasn't just helping, I was closing. Clients trusted me. They saw the steadiness in me, the refusal to be fooled twice. By spring, I had my license. For the first time in decades, I wasn't his wife. I was Mallory Brooks, realtor, provider, survivor, woman with her own name on her own paycheck. Sometimes I still hear his name. Knoxville is small enough that you can't avoid every shadow. Someone will mention seeing him, thinner now, working odd jobs, borrowing couches to sleep on. The man who once had more business cards than friends has none of either now. He's a ghost that people pass without stopping. Do I pity him? No. Pity implies I still carry him with me. I don't. He taught me what betrayal looks like, and in the process, he taught me what freedom feels like. That's the irony. His destruction became my rebirth. Maren asked me once, late at night, if I ever missed him. I thought about it carefully before answering. I miss the woman I thought I was when I loved him, I said. But I don't miss him. She nodded, and I saw relief in her face. She doesn't need to carry the weight of my longing, because there isn't any. There's only forward. The locket sits on my dresser now. I had it cleaned, polished, the inscription still etched inside. Forever Mallory. Never another. For years, I thought those words were about permanence with him. Now I understand they were about permanence with myself. My worth. My boundaries. My name. Life doesn't look the way I imagined at 22. But it looks honest. And honest is better. When I walk through a closing with a client, when I hug Marin after a college acceptance email, when I sit on my porch with coffee watching the sun climb over Knoxville, I feel it. The weight is gone. Betrayal was the fire, but freedom is the air I breathe now, and I'll never give it back. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts or even your own experience in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more powerful stories. Your support